Trying out this Rumble Studio again, now for real. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bob's Lunch Break. I know it's like 9 in the morning. I've been up since for a while, so we're going to go try this live stream. Let me get some chat windows open. And yeah, it looks like we're live. I'm just sort of trying this out. It's a little bit of a new thing. So how do I get me back on the screen? It looks like it's a little bit laggy here. I want to switch back to my main screen, please. Oh, I guess this is going to be good enough. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Bob's Lunch Break. I'm Bobtheorc, and we are trying to stream live on YouTube, Rumble, and X. And I'm not sure if we're live or not. Tested this out yesterday, so this is our first somewhat serious attempt. Now, in full disclosure, one of my guys is sick today, so I am babysitting the store phone. So might get a call in a little while if the store phone starts ringing, but I think we got a little bit of time. So here's what I want to talk about today. Had a really interesting conversation with a young gentleman the other day, and he was the last customer of the day. We were hanging out, and he was, "Hey Slav, how you doing? Today I have leftover chicken and rice and my hot cup of tea. That's my lunch." So I was talking with this kid the other day. Not kid. I mean, he's 21, and he was telling me about how he felt that his business degree was essentially useless. He couldn't find a job, and he's thinking of going back to trade school to, learn CNC machining because he has a hobby for 3D printing, and he thought that might be a little bit more useful. Sorry, my eyes are a little bit. It's been a long day already. Anyway, so we were talking. It is great, Slav. Thank you. So we were talking about some stuff, and he didn't really know what to do. Let me see if I get this chat thing working here. Nope. There we go. Yeah, so we're talking, and what do we do about this? And I started explaining, kind of why we're in this situation that we're in, because keep in mind, I grew up in the perfect time. I grew up in the 90s when nobody hated each other. We had the most money, the most power. Everything was great. And now things kind of suck. I mean, they sucked a little bit for me. Life's not fair, and it wasn't fair for me when I was first getting started as well. But here's kind of my system for how I go through life and how I do on. I wrote this down in an article on my website a bunch of years ago, 3 years ago. And I'm just going to kind of summarize. There's basically 5 things that I do. I even made a little video. You can go to bobtheorc.com and watch the whole thing. And there's basically 5 things I do each day that really helps. If I get like 2 out of the 5 done, I'm pretty happy. And you can start by doing just like one productive thing a day, and then another and another. So, first thing, physical health. Get enough sleep, get enough nutrition, exercise. I'm a bigger guy. I've been recovering from a really bad allergic reaction to some of the chemical crap they put in food. I didn't know I was eating something bad, and it caused me a hell of a big problem. I won't go into the details on here, but it was bad. And you got to be really careful about that stuff, because while most of the big food producers probably ought to be in prison for poisoning the population, ultimately you're the person, you're in charge of your life. You gotta take control of it and make those good decisions. So do something each day to make sure you get enough sleep, that you eat right, that you exercise. Next thing you got to do is you need to be productive each day. You've got to work a little bit and earn some money. Um, if you don't do this, you're gonna suck, and life's gonna be really bad. And you've got to be active every day. I work 7 days a week. Now, I don't kill myself 7 days a week. I play a lot of video games on Saturdays and Sundays, and I enjoy my time in the evenings. But I bust my ass. And if you're not willing to really work hard, look at all the rich people out there who are look at Elon. Elon sleeps on the factory floor and he busts his ass. Now you can like him or not like him, but dude works. He works his butt off. And this is true with a lot of people. You know, you could look at Warren Buffett, who's older and he's wealthy. He does most of his income comes from investments. But I promise you, that dude studies. He works his butt off every day studying and reading. Speak of studying, you got to develop your mind. You got to learn stuff. I spend usually at least 2 hours a day studying. I've been out of college for decades, but I study every day. This is how I learn new skills. Um, Yesterday, I studied how to make Rumble Studio work. You know, you've got to learn skills. And even if you're out of college, college doesn't teach you anything. College is just a starting point. A lot of times, college, frankly, if you don't utilize it, college is a waste if you don't really. A friend of mine, his mom told me something really wise. She said to me, because I was trying to decide, when I was first getting ready to go to school, I was trying to decide if I wanted to. Hey, Shadow Wolf. Um, I was trying to decide if I wanted to go to Yale or someplace like that, Columbia, or if I wanted to go to OU where I had the scholarship, right? And so there really is a question: was do I go to Yale, graduate with a lot of debt, or do I go to OU, graduate debt free? And she said to me that where you go to school is not nearly as important as what you do when you're there. And this is the true for any type of education. You could have the best education institution in the world, and if you go sit on your ass at MIT, you're going to be a dumbass. On the other hand, you could bust your ass at trade school and study, every night, whole broad variety of topics. You're going to be successful. It all comes down to how much work you put in. And so, like, developing your mind is just like developing your body, it's just like exercising. Spend some time every day, lifting weights and cardio and all that stuff. Spend some time working your brain. You have to spend a little bit of time each day relaxing, otherwise, you're going to stress out. Take a break, take a nap, play some video games. Meditation's also important. Go find God, walk in the woods, do something so that you don't lose perspective because life sucks. And there are brief moments where life is awesome, but most of the time it sucks. And so you want to. This is why I play video games every night with my friends. I want to remember why I work so hard because I want to hang out with my friends and play video games. I enjoy the people that I enjoy. I define success as being able to do whatever the hell I want, whenever the hell I want to do it, with whoever the hell I want to do it with. And so if I can't enjoy my time with the people I care about, then what's the point of busting my ass, right? So you got to spend some time relaxing. You can't let it dominate, right? Most people sit on their ass and don't do anything. But your relaxation time is your time to reset your mind, reset your soul, really. And then also long-term improvements. You got to do something that will long-term benefit your life every day. Whether it's just clean your room, that's a good one. Implemented a new tracking thing, a new tracking category for our projects at the office, and this will let me more efficiently manage the projects that are going badly before they go bad, right? A little tiny thing took us, an hour to get it working, but that's going to make a huge difference. Are making a huge difference. So just these little tweaks just slowly improve your life. that all adds up over time. Lots of little numbers. I call it the theory of small numbers. A whole bunch of small numbers add up to a big number. So that's your takeaway. Do something, take care of your body. It's the only one you got. Do something productive each day because you need the money, and don't be a lazy ass. Develop your mind. It's your most powerful tool. Relax a little bit and be true to who you are, because the stress will kill you slowly. Stress is a poison, so you've got to be able to relax. Just don't overdo it. And then you want to improve your environment, simplify what you can, bring beauty to your life, do good things. So that's sort of the big takeaway. And so I follow these steps every day for years. Ever since I was a kid, really, I figured this out. I started figuring this out when I was in 8th grade. A gentleman named Miles Finley, who later ended up, I think he got like a full ride scholarship to Yale or Harvard or one of those places. Very smart guy. He was a senior in high school when I was in 8th grade, and he got me set on the idea of not sweating the small stuff. Focus on the things that'll get you into the most trouble if you don't get them done. And that's when I first started thinking about, how do I develop a system to be more successful? Just a habit. Build good habits, and if you develop good habits, then success in life will begin to come naturally. So that's first takeaway. Another topic I want to talk about. So why is everybody screwed? Here's where we say all the naughty stuff. Ha ha ha! So I was trolling Twitter the other day, like I usually do when I'm taking a poop, because people's opinions on the internet are worth about that. And some lady, I don't know who the hell she is, she's like, most third world migrants cannot assimilate into civil societies. Prove me wrong. And then this other guy, I can't pronounce his name, is like, third world refugee here. I have a PhD in English and I won a Pulitzer Prize in fiction. What have you done? And that's a good comeback. Look, that's a good comeback. I couldn't let that go, so I had to troll. So I'm like, Grok, what percentage of third world refugees have PhDs? And Grok's like, less than 0.1%. And so, so that's about what I figured. And yeah, the refugee demographics skew towards unskilled. Okay. And we all know the reality is that the rich and elite who run the country, they want to bring in lots of low education, low IQ people. It's not a matter of like, it's not a racial thing, it's a demographic thing, right? Because dumb people are easier to control. The Democrats think they're going to get a bunch of voters long term, and the Republicans think they're going to get a bunch of cheap labor. That's and then the rest of us get kind of screwed. And so I was like, what percentage of these refugees end up on some sort of taxpayer funded assistance? So over 70%. That's about what I thought. Now, I kind of knew the answers to all this because my dad's a PhD economist and he used to work for the Federal Reserve. He was an economics professor. So a lot of this stuff is kind of common sense. But yeah, so like over 70% of the low education refugees, they end up on some sort of major welfare program. And you'll see where I'm going at here in a minute, because this is kind of a big troll, and this is going to explain why our life sucks so much, and why, frankly, the refugees' life sucks so much too. What percentage of this money directly benefits the recipients? So, about 93%. Some of it goes to admin costs and a little bit of fraud. All right, so not as bad as I thought. I have a feeling the fraud's probably a little bit worse, but most of the money, there's some embezzlement. And I'm sure our elites, go pilfer some money. And so so there's an awful lot of money being spent. I'm going to skip through the boring stuff because I'm just kind of leading it along with some pointed questions. And so so there's about what $200 billion a year in fraud. That's an awful lot of money. So anyway, so I ask, how many third world refugees have come to the United States in the last 25 years who had PhDs, right? And so somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 refugees have come to the United States, okay? And so now I'm going to ask, now, how much money did we spend on all these wars? And we spent trillions of dollars on the wars and whatnot, and carrying on. Basically, we're going to get to the summary here in a minute, and we're flipping the bill. So I was like, if we'd spent all this money, so it basically comes down to we're spending about $5 billion per PhD to bring them here, right? Of all the money we've spent divided by 2,000 PhDs that we got, that's about $5 billion per PhD. So I'm asking Grok, what would have happened if we just took that $5 billion and gave it to each of the PhDs to fund their research? And, that would have, you know, massively improve the GDP and improve their countries. So, like, instead of bringing the refugees here for $5 billion per PhD, we could have just spent that money on the PhDs in their home country, and we could have just fixed all their shit up. And so basically, our politicians fucked up. We paid the bills. And yeah, politicians chase geopolitical dominance over strategic foresight. That is very well said, Grok. And so if we add the war money and everything, so basically if we add all the money we've spent since 9/11 on foreign wars, on refugees, on welfare to the refugees, and on interest to the debt, it comes out to most of the $38 trillion that we have as our national debt. What would have happened if instead of blowing up half the world and creating a refugee crisis and killing millions of people, what would have happened if we'd spent that $38 trillion on us, on fixing our stuff up, right? And basically, we would have doubled our standard of living. We probably would have colonized Mars by now. We would have, all the good things that we thought was going to happen in the 1990s would have happened. And instead, we wasted it all on war. And this is why you guys are fucked. And this is why everybody in the third world's kind of fucked too. I mean, well, they're fucked for a variety of reasons, but we certainly didn't help. And so basically, I tell them this is my dad agrees, because I was on the phone with Dad when I was having this conversation with Grok. I was teaching Dad about AI, and that's basically true. You know, so part of why you guys are screwed is because we've wasted our national inheritance and gone into giant debt to pursue, foreign adventures, ruining many parts of the world, creating a refugee crisis that's flooded Europe, flooded us with a bunch of, low educated refugees. And these guys are screwed too, right? I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't do something about them, but, we screwed them, we screwed us, we screwed everybody. And this is all the Dick Cheney types, the neocon types, the Hillary Clinton types, all the elites up in DC who don't give a shit about us. So that's why we're screwed. So what can you do about it? Because I don't think we're changing the system. Well, this gets me back to my original point. There's not a lot that you're going to be able to do affecting, global politics, right? Um, sorry, but standing on a street corner protesting is not going to stop the war in Ukraine. It's not going to stop us from sending, you know, billions of dollars to Israel or Afghanistan to go blow people up there, or whatever the hell's going to be happening in Nigeria or Venezuela or any of these places, right? Um, it's said that the military industrial complex needs about $500 billion worth of war every year just to stay happy. That kind of sucks. But that's just what it is. They're going to get their $500 billion. Now, maybe we could, I don't know, invest that $500 billion a year uh, here, be like, okay, hey, military industrial complex, we'll give you the money you want, but you've got to spend it here in America to go make us better. Maybe our politicians figure something out like that. I don't. I'm just going to assume that most of our politicians in both parties are just dumb or corrupt or bought and paid for. We've got a lot of problems. I was reading a article this morning about how our foreign adversaries have bought not just farmland, but they bought a bunch of residential housing and various properties all over the U.S. where they can monitor U.S. bases and see flights, and they've got, we're basically the people leading our country are dumb. So There's no getting around that. Uh, not unless people, especially young people, start paying attention in the primaries. Uh, it's like I was talking to a to my English teacher from middle school. We still keep up in New York, and he was saying that basically, you had they had a shit election. They had their choices were the dirt bag, the vigilante, or the communist, and either way they were kind of screwed. So, most of the time you're going to get a lot of bad choices because people don't pay attention to the primaries. And we'll do other videos on that later. The big takeaway for you right now is focus on what you can do yourself. You got to get healthy. You know, I spend an hour every day just kind of working out and trying to undo all the damage that allergic reaction uh gave me. That's correct, Shadow Wolf. Um, man doesn't change. Um, so and also remember you need to be smart to survive and succeed in the modern world. And your physical health, your body health directly impacts your brain power, okay? Um, for example, when I before I got really sick, I had just boundless energy and I could really pursue a lot of things. And then when I got sick, I lost, half my energy. And it's hard to think and be smart all day long. It's gotten a lot better over the past several months, just through effort. But as my body improved, my mind improved. And so you need to focus on your body. Okay. There's a lot of, just remember, you're being lied to about nearly everything that's important. Okay. Stay away from the sugar, stay away from the carbs. I know I probably shouldn't be eating this rice, but my stomach's a little upset and I like rice. But, you know, don't be eating a bunch of crap. Don't be drinking a bunch of sodas. Don't be downing all those monster drinks. One of the guys that works for me, he was having all this trouble, and he was getting really sick. And one day he stopped drinking the Monster Energy drinks, and poof, he was better, and he had more energy too. Old-fashioned solutions: cup of tea with locally grown honey helps my allergies, gives me the caffeine and sugar I want, and it's relatively healthy. So you gotta, if it comes in a weird box and has a bunch of like fancy, pretty colors and stuff, it's probably awful for you. Then do something productive each day. Just do one good thing every day to move you towards a better future. You know, go earn some money, go do some work, look for a better job, anything. Doesn't matter what it is. Just do something productive every day or work on a side gig. A lot of people, frankly, need to have side income. You're never going to get rich working for somebody else. So find something that you're good at doing and start doing it a little bit on the side, or just mow somebody's lawn. If you made an extra $20 a day mowing lawns, it's not going to be a lot of money, but uh, be what, $400 a month, $600 a month for half an hour's worth of work. That's not bad. So you can do a lot to improve yourself every day. Also, live vastly below your means. I probably should have put that in my list, but I didn't think about it because I thought that was just common sense when I wrote this. So I could afford a much larger, much nicer house. I live in a very modest house. I live a very modest life. My hobbies are, walking in the woods and playing video games. I don't have a lavish lifestyle. And this means that even when the economy stinks, I'm doing fine because I'm not living it big. I see so many people complaining on the internet. Oh my God, I need a better job. The economy sucks. I can't afford my DoorDash. Bitch, get your ass out of the house and walk to the grocery store. Get you some chicken. These chicken strips cost me what, like $5 a pound. I spent like $15 on chicken strips. I grilled them myself. Came out pretty good. And I've been eating these things for like 3 days. Okay. Um, I probably spend like $10 a day on food. I could spend more. but I mostly cook at home. Why? Because why am I going to go and pay like $40 to go eat at a nice restaurant when I can make something almost as good myself? Special occasions, sure. Um, I'll go to a restaurant later today and celebrate something with a friend of mine, but not an everyday thing. Come on. You can't afford that shit. If you are in debt, you need to not be going out to restaurants. Don't be running up that credit card. Now, if it's like business stuff, sometimes I take clients out, we go to a restaurant, we go do this, that, and the other, I'll put on the company credit card. That's different. But don't be using your credit card to buy DoorDash, okay? If you don't have the cash to buy it, you don't need it. That's just common sense. Develop your mind every day. I spend at least 2 hours a day studying something, okay? And I've been out of college for decades. Most of most of what I do that earns a living, I did not learn in college, okay? And let's be clear about what college is for. And most of you guys may not even I'm gonna say some blasphemous things, okay? If you're dumb, don't go to college. Go take an IQ test. It's probably worth it, okay? If you've got like 100 IQ or lower, don't go to college. You're not going to benefit. Not yet, anyway. Not until you really train up. Um, so the purpose of college is to teach you how to think, not to teach you. They say teach you information, but realistically, if you're not going to college for like an engineering degree, you're throwing your money away. Okay, if you're going for the purpose of a liberal arts degree is to teach you how to think, so you can then learn information in the future, gain knowledge, and be productive. Right? The planet would be screwed if we didn't have some liberal arts majors. We don't need a lot of liberal arts majors. Okay. That green-haired girl with a liberal arts degree as the barista at Starbucks, she probably wasted her money. Okay. I knew a guy who he got a degree in I think philosophy or something. As a guy I knew in college, and he ended up going on to working at Exxon. Largely through family connections and whatnot. His parents, he came from a rich family. They had oil money, they had connections. And, if you study history, if you study the world, at large, you can learn how to think and solve problems. But there's a lot of other ways to learn how to do that too. So don't be going into a bunch of debt for a liberal arts degree because you're not going to make it back. If you're going to school for engineering, or science, then you're probably going to be all right. A lot of the people who become successful with liberal arts degrees go on to then study. They do like a liberal arts pre-law, and then they go on to get their law degree, law license, or go into medical field or something like that. And so if you've got a plan, that's fine. But if you're dumb, you're not getting a law degree or a medical degree. Look at all the Hollywood stars we make fun of because they've been taking the bar exam over and over again, keep failing. So you need to know your limits and don't step in over your head until you develop your mind. Now, you can become smarter by exercising your mind. I know people who are dumb and they have become less dumb and then eventually quite capable. Yeah, exactly, Shadow Wolf didn't go to college because he didn't want to get into a bunch of unnecessary debt. And so I'd bet $100 that Shadow Wolf is probably doing better in life than some letters major who's working at Starbucks. And that's the other thing. College is expensive. College degree now is what, like $100,000, something like that. One of the guys that works for me, and he got an engineering degree. He's still paying off his college debt. I mean, he's paying it off and he's doing all right. He makes more than somebody at Starbucks makes, but this is also one of the smartest kids I know. But if you think about it, I went to school for architecture and astrophysics. What do? I fix fucking computers. I mean, I design servers and I do a bunch of consulting stuff as well. But, I graduated debt free because I went where I had a scholarship. You know, Now, would I have been better off graduating with a lot of debt from Yale? Well, I don't know. Maybe I would have met a lot of connections, or maybe I would have been, at a, waiting tables at a diner. I chose to go to University of Oklahoma because I could graduate debt free with the honors program, and but no, I think that if you're going to run up a lot of debt, I think Shadow Wolf is exactly correct. If you're going to run up a lot of debt going to college, you're in for a world of hurt. You better have a plan. And here's the thing, you can always go to college later. You could always take online course. I knew this girl, one of the smartest girls I ever knew. I knew this girl who would find out the textbooks that her local university made the students buy, and then she would just buy the textbooks and study them on her own. And she didn't ever go to college, but she was basically as smart as somebody who did, because she just read all the textbooks on her own, and she studied a whole lot of stuff. And here's the thing, all that information's online now. There's nothing stopping you from getting online and reading books, uh conversations with AI. You can ask Grok questions and it's interesting. Sometimes Grok says some weird things. So I generally ask Grok about stuff that I already know about, so I can, and just where I'm looking for details, help me find a link to this, which make me a chart of which tool's going to have the better stress tolerance or whatever. There's things that AI is good for, but you can just get on Google and you can just find stuff. Internships are great. Yeah, Shadow Wolf, that's awesome. Yeah, internships are great. Um, the we do an internship program at my yeah, we do an internship program at my office sometimes. Where we take some special needs kids every summer and we help them out. Kind of teach them basic skills. But where I learned probably more than what I learned. I mean, I learned a lot in college, but one of the most useful experiences for me was when I interned at this architect's office when I was in high school. And the architect basically said, "I'll make you a deal. You help me with computer stuff, 3D modeling, and some of the stuff that you know how to do, and do my tech support and whatnot. Help me answer the phones, run errands, and then I'll make sure you can skip your first 2 years of college." And I skipped my sophomore year at college largely because of my internship with this architect in New York. I spent some time being mentored by a guy named Tony Handel. He owns the Handel Moravsky law firm where I worked as a patent engineer basically, and he mentored me, and I kind of interned there. I mean, I got paid also, but I learned so much from that guy. Just um, I'm not going to say that I have a law degree, but I could probably go to law school and do okay because I learned so much just interning at a law office as an engineer. Because I learned, you pick up a lot of the other skills, and it's so yeah. Projects are. I don't know about project search. I think in Oklahoma they call it the STEPS program, but they're all about the same. If you can get an internship, do it. If you're young, like I don't think we have a lot of kids watching this. I think it's mostly going to be young adults. But if you can get an internship, fucking do it. Um, and just learn what you can. It's amazing. But you've got to develop your mind. But a normal standard college degree nowadays is not as useful as it was before, largely because you have the internet and because it's gotten so damn expensive. So if you have a scholarship, if you have a free ride, college, go for it. But if you're going to go into a lot of debt, you've got to do some thinking. Now, I worked even with my scholarships. I had to work while I was in college. So I ended up graduating with about $4,000 worth of debt, and which I paid off, pretty quick because I ran the computer store is how I paid for college, basically. And before that, I worked at the local pizza place, and I uh, worked for Gateway Computers, doing telephone support and stuff like that. But internships are the way to go. You know, relax every day. When I didn't stream last night, I was too tired. I just decided to just go to bed. I was gonna, I was gonna get on and when Vorgath finished up his work, and he said he'd be done at 9 o'clock, and I just like I'm gonna go eat supper and hang out. So what I'm eating for breakfast or for lunch right now, this is my supper from last night. I sat down and I fell asleep. I didn't. I was just tired. Getting enough sleep super important, but relaxing, meditating, finding God, whatever it is that where you can learn, become true with yourself, right? That's important. And then improving your environment, doing something every day. I did something yesterday or the day before, and I guess it was yesterday. I got this little stair step things, a little exercise step, and because I'm having a lot of problems with my legs and whatnot. And so I just set it next to my desk. And every time I walk to and from my desk, I step over the step and just kind of, just to kind of help me kind of work out the kinks in my knees so I can go and, because I don't want to have to walk with a cane. Some days it's kind of hard. Uh, just one little thing like that. Or I've got a little exercise area off to the side. I'll do some push-ups or I'll do some exercises whenever I'm walking to and from my desk. Uh, just little things that make your life more efficient. Uh, Cleaning things up. I got a little cordless charging pad for my phone at the office, and so I can just plop my phone down. Yes, I could plug it in, but it's so much faster just to plop my phone down on it. That saves me 10 seconds here, 10 seconds there, and all that adds up over time, right? Um, Internship was Atlas Copco Drilling Solutions. That sounds like some oil field stuff. Learning how to use machinery, doing like real world stuff, that's super important. I mean, learn real skills. Because here's the thing, all the successful people I know with liberal arts degrees also know real world skills. I don't know a lot of people who make a living writing books and whatnot, Um, So your liberal arts degree will be useful for teaching you how to think, but if you don't learn real world skills and interact in the real world, then it's not going to get you anywhere. That real world experience is really the most important thing. So anyway, what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to do a series of hangout videos, probably in the morning. Yeah, mining and drilling is digging holes super important. Humans have been needing to dig holes for thousands of years. Um, so I'm thinking of doing like a morning hangout uh, before work or before I have to go into the office. Usually have to be at the office in the afternoon. I do some morning stuff. I usually wake up like 5 in the morning. That's the other thing. Um, Wake up early because you get a lot done when nobody's bothering you. No joke. So, if people like this, I'll start doing a morning hangout. We can talk about some stuff and then do some gaming in the evenings. But I really want to help you guys have a better life. I think the system sucks. I don't know how we fix it without things getting really crazy. And things might get really crazy anyway. It's another reason to get in good shape. So when the zombie horde comes knocking at your door, you can run away or fight them off. Um, but yeah, if you guys like this, then we'll start doing a morning hangout and we'll just kind of go from there. So maybe not every morning, but when I'm not busy with phone calls or meetings. Speaking of which, I have a phone call I've got to make here in just a little bit. I got to go and explain some server upgrade proposals to one of my clients. So I got to take care of that. I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out, and I will catch you guys later. I'll try and be on tonight. So take care. Goodbye.